fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got sight, always have a vision. I go by at night, I be in my feelings. I'ma be fine, need time, and I'll soon be winning.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to the Player's Edge. We got almost a normal crew. Tom, we have Sean, we have Chris filling in for the vacationing Terry, and we have everybody's favorite TVG analyst, Todd Schrupp. Todd, how are you tonight? Can you hear us okay? I don't know. Maybe we have Todd Schrupp. Todd, are you with us?
I'm here. I'm being silly.
Yes, I know. But Todd, can you hear us, Todd? Apparently he can't hear us at the moment. Can you hear us, Todd? He could hear us before. We can't hear you now. You know, you ever seen the MTV show Punked? I think we're being punked. He's a prankster, right? All right, Todd.
He doesn't have that look like he's pranking us.
No, he does not have that look like he's pranking us. Sean, maybe you want to send him an email, a text, let him know we can't hear him, and that maybe if he plugs out and plugs back in, we'll be able. There he goes. He's going to do it again. So, anyway, we are going to have Todd Schrupp as our guest this evening, eventually. I mean, but what does everybody think about? I don't know. Chris's wife, Boston Chris's wife, is very mad at him for painting the wall in the back with the HRT logo, but that's how much of a team player he's become, baby.
Got to do what you got to do.
Indeed, for sure. There you go. Can you hear us now?
I got you. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. I assume it was a great introduction.
That was the best introduction you've ever had, hands down. You're going to have to rewind it and watch that one and have everybody else, wherever you go, play it.
See, that, like I've always said, the least talented people on a broadcast are the people in front of the camera. That's why I could not do microphones. I could not do the camera. I'm amazed at the people I get to work with. So thank you for bearing with me.
No problem. We just figured, we know that you're a little bit of a prankster. So we thought that you were just like, punking us like the old MTV show.
Well, I have to say I'm also intimidated by this panel. You guys have handicapped me the last time I was on, and so hopefully I'll do a little bit better this time around.
Well, there's a few people on Twitter who probably make the same claim, but we're all liars. Absolutely, for sure, right? So you're off. You're off in Baltimore today. What did the track play like today?
It was funny. When I got there, I was on after race number 4. And so I was on with Dave, and Dave made the statement that he thought you couldn't win on the lead. So then, of course, literally every dirt race after that was one gate to wire. So I don't think you can take anything away from that. And the one thing I found with the Triple Crown races, from track to track, really, it can change race to race on the big day. The one thing that I think you also have to take into account, when I got into town last night, we had a bit of a rainstorm. It was on the cool side. And right about post time today, it was starting to cool off and starting to dry out on the main track. And we're going to have something totally different tomorrow. It's going to heat up dramatically. It's going to be into the 90s, as everyone's been talking about. And then Saturday, it's going to go to another level. So as far as how the track is playing, we're going to be back on the turf, obviously, on Friday and both Saturday. And I think the main track will just be a different situation to deal with.
Uh-oh. Is that me?
Meltdown on the Friday and particularly Saturday here.
All right, perfect. You clicked out a little bit on the cell signal there, so I wasn't sure. So one of the funny things is when you're on one of these like Zoom things and the screen goes out, it's kind of like a game of like tag or hide and go seek, because you never know which person's internet's not working correctly. So we all are like, is that me?
They can also fill in the blank. What did Todd say?
It was all expletives. That's why we have that 10-second delay. That's why he went bleep. Thomas, how are you tonight?
I'm doing good. Another fun-filled day.
Are you being interrogated tonight?
A little bit, but not that awful. So, Todd, what do you think the biggest factor in the turf at Maryland's Pimlico track it dictates because of the tight turns?
Yeah, I think the configuration you talked about is a very real thing. I think in those turf sprints, it's got a slingshot effect. You will see horses rocket around that final turn or in the one-turn situation with sprint. So that Jim McKay sprint, you're going to see some horses have some real momentum off the turn. And so it can be tough to take a field gate to wire in the turf sprints here. Although having said that, a horse that we'll be talking about in the Jim McKay, I think has quite a bit of early speed. But you're right, the configuration is the thing. Where it's overplayed is this whole idea on the main track, the tight turns at Pimlico on the main track. I've never seen that as a factor in my handicapping on the main track, but I do believe, the turns are very tight on that turf course, and it is something to take into account for sure.
How you doing tonight, Sean?
I'm doing great. Hi, Todd. Good to have
how are you, Sean?
again. Good. So one of the most talked about things all week, and our Chris here even wrote an article about it, is the Triple Crown and changing dates. What are your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh, why do we have this conversation? As if 2 Triple Crown winners weren't enough in the last few years. We proved that it can be done. It should remain still the hardest thing in all of sports, and I don't think it's a safety issue either. And just because some owners decided to make a decision that pretty much was their game plan going to the Derby and their horse surprised themselves, I don't think needs to bring this conversation back. I've always loved the fact that we do have the hardest accomplishment in sports. You have the factor that you only get one shot at it. You're a 3-year-old only once, and then you've got to do it in 5 weeks at the variety of distances. I personally don't understand it, but what's frustrating to me is I know that some of the push comes from some of the industry stakeholders, the tracks themselves, because they want to have an event that stands alone and is not at the mercy. For example, the Preakness doesn't want to be at the mercy
of the Kentucky Derby.
They're not showing up. But how many times have we experienced that? That's a I don't know why they should panic over that. And then you have the Belmont Stakes on the end, where if they don't have the possibility of a Triple Crown winner, but what are you going to move these races to? And think about this, and a couple of other people made the point as well. It's actually harder to keep your horse together for 3 months than 5 weeks. So now you're going to ask a horse to go from the first Saturday in May, maybe sit out a month, then run in the Preakness, maybe sit out another month, and then run in the Belmonts.
Technology is your friend and is also is your enemy as well, right? For sure. So while we wait for Todd to come back, you're back with us now. You're kind of kicking out in a little bit. That's all right. That's that Maryland cellular service. They must not have the 5G there yet.
Well, I thought I had enough points in the Bonvoy program here at Marriott that I get the high-end signal.
Indeed, for sure. Speaking of high-end signals, we have a high-end background here with Boston Chris, who's definitely involved in something at the moment. What's happening, Chris?
We got a lot going on. We got a playoff basketball game, and I think the Celtics are winning like big time. So I'm in a very good mood tonight. Hey, Todd, I had a kind of an oddball question for you. You have to talk about all the races, obviously being on TVG. I was curious if you can hear me.
He's kind of frozen a little bit. Uh-huh. Hopefully he comes back. But anyway.
Now he's pranking us.
There he is.
There he is. All right.
All right. Todd, I had a question for you. You have to talk about every race, obviously, being on TVG. I'm just curious this is kind of, I don't know if you've ever been asked this before, but how many races in a day do you actually play?
I don't think we're being pranked now, Sean. He's way too still to be pranking us for sure. But while we wait for him to come back, you did mention the article that Chris wrote.
I play more races than I should. But I will say this. I have tracks, and every player has to make this decision because you have access to every racetrack now. But I'm up against it. So I try to play so many racetracks, and as a pick 5 player, I'm playing 5 races in New York and 5 races in Florida and 5.
Fun. It's been a stressful day. Now, of course, technology doesn't want to cooperate. All right, so here we go. Here is Chris's article. So you kind of been going in and out a little bit, Todd. Here's Chris's article. You can catch that over on horseracingtoday.net. Hopefully we can catch Todd coming back in here. A little bit of a cell signal issue. He's kind of freezing up a little bit there. Are you back with us today? I mean, is your cell signal working again?
I think I'm here now. I may have to change off the hotel Wi-Fi soon.
So you were saying that you play pick fives. Chris's question was, how many do you play? So maybe you can rewind that again for us.
Well, yeah, I mean, as a pick five player, if you think about it, I'm already trying to hit 5 races at one track. So now if I just take 3 tracks, 3 circuits, Florida, New York, and California, I'm trying to go 15 for 15. And while I like the action, it's not realistic for a player. So, you know, to Chris's question, I have gotten better at narrowing it down, but
no, gonna have to go with the hot spot from the cell phone there, maybe,
or the cold
work
spot.
in on TG is lulled. Should I switch signals?
Yeah, while you switch signals, we'll talk about a couple of other things real quick.
Okay,
So,
perfect. Hold on.
All right. All right. So let's all right, Sean. So the Chris's article, we can check that out real quick. Over on horseracingtoday.net, Chris wrote a really nice article about that topic that we were discussing quickly about what does he think one ought to do about the schedule with the Kentucky Derby, the Preakness, and the Belmont Stakes. I'm glad I didn't get that order off. Sometimes when you're trying to think on the fly what you want to say, it doesn't actually come out. All right. Hopefully we have the signal issues fixed now. All right. So you're back with us now. So anyway, you were saying that you play, you've learned how to narrow them down on your pick fives.
Yeah, I wish I would make more win wagers, to be honest with you. But, you know, not everyone has to experience looking at all the racetracks. I mean, look, I have the greatest job in the world. I'm not going to deny that. But Chris makes a very good point. You have a tendency, once you've put in the time and work into a race, well, then I have to bet that race. And that's not necessarily true. It's hard to step back sometimes. And when you're looking at a lot of races to realize what's a good bet and what's not a good bet. At times, play way too many pick fives at too many different racetracks. But it is a constant struggle to, and I'll have those moments where, okay, I made my choice, and then the pick five on the other circuit I didn't play comes in. So I can't look at that as a reason, okay, I've got to go back to playing all those racetracks. But I think it's a struggle for a lot of players because there wasn't a time when I started in racing, when many of you started in racing, simulcasting wasn't a thing. It wasn't a consistent thing at your local racetrack. They'd bring in a couple of races for that particular day or over the weekend. So you didn't have to make these choices. But with the advent of simulcasting and now TVG and all these outlets, every race is accessible. But every horse player has to realize that you don't need to play every race, obviously. Whether you put the work in or not. Sometimes by putting the work in, you can say, this actually isn't a good opportunity here. It really has gotten a lot tougher to decide where the good opportunities are.
So we do a daily pick show. Terry, who's not here, and I, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. And then Tom, we do 4 on Fridays on Friday. I don't know about you, but do you have the same sensation I do? Once I put my name on it, like, okay, I'm backing this horse, whether I'm backing it or not, I still want that thing to win and win big. Well,
and that's the thing. Look, I have I don't want to say easier job because I do think there are some things to my job that I hope that the general audience can see and appreciate, but I'm not always in the analyst role. So I'm not on TVG giving out a pick. There's sometimes where I may insert my pick and say, I like this horse. So I tend to give out my picks on Twitter. And so when I do that, I take a great pride in how those picks do over the course of a day. So I know exactly what you're talking about. And there's no worse feeling than when the day develops and you realize you've made against the way the track might be playing, where you can make an adjustment. It's kind of an odd sensation. You put your pick in early, you put in this and put your name to it. But you have that feeling. It's like, okay, the way the day is playing out, if there's a track bias or you've seen some things along the way from a particular barn, and you realize, hey, maybe my best bet can't win today. And but you're locked in. So yeah, I take great pride in the same thing that you do, and that is when you put your name to something, it means a lot.
So Jerry wants to know. It kind of goes what you were talking about regarding the pick fives. He said, "Why do you guys have such a short budget for ticket structure on pick fours and pick fives?"
Well, that's very nice that he recognizes that, because there's a good portion of our audience that thinks the tickets are too big. If you put in $60 to $75, that's a big pick five. I wish my tickets were that size when I go to play. I play beyond that. I just think it's more difficult than that. But it is based on management took a look at how our players were playing, going back a number of years, probably about 12 years ago, and they decided for a certain range for these tickets. But to hear a question like that makes me feel good, because I honestly think if you're pulling off a pick five, and we're putting out pick five tickets almost every day, in the $40 to $60 range, and you're hitting it, that's pretty amazing, because I think that is a very limited budget to hit a pick five, and to hit a pick five of consequence. Rich Perloff on Kentucky Oaks Day gave out a pick five that paid about $2,200, and it was on a $40 ticket. To me, that's about what I get to. If you're talking about picks that are paying $20,000, know that you probably got to put in $200 to $500 to have realistically hit a ticket of that size. So I'm glad he brings it up, but essentially that is all just research by our management team and looking at the calendars at TVG and finding what their average bets are into certain pools, and that's the budget they've come up with.
All right. One other quick question for you. He says, where are you going to get your crab cakes while in Baltimore?
I just came back from a crab cake dinner. What a surprise. I went to Papa's, and it's a place not far from here. I stay up in Hunt Valley, Maryland. I like to drive in. This is up near horse country. The old Whitney farm is up here. There's just such great history up in this part of just north of Maryland. So there's a place called Papa's Sports Bar and Grill. And it was actually on Oprah's Favorite Things about 6 years ago. And it is one of the best crab cakes in Maryland. But Boston Chris and I are on opposite sides of the game tonight. I'm a Miami Heat fan, so I was devastated to see how they're letting that game get away. But I was catching that and a little bit of the Panthers game before I got here. But yeah, if you are in this area, and everything's drivable, obviously, without a lot of traffic, check out Papa's. I think they have at least probably top 3 crab cakes I've ever had since I've been coming here. I've been coming here for a little while.
Terry over here, he was saying that your budgets aren't high enough on your pick fives. We do every day a hot dog pick 4. We're only allowed to spend $20. And the funny thing for me is I find that when I spend less, I usually do better. Maybe I'm more focused on eliminating horses instead of making excuses for them. It's tough to tell. All right, so we're going to try to make some. Always fun. All right, so let's go ahead and must be that Maryland, something about that Maryland signal out there, that ocean air is messing us up. But we're going to start with our picks for Saturday, starting with the Black Eyed Susan. That is the female race on Friday of the double with the Preakness. Now my brain's going a little bit like the cell signal. So looking at the Black Eyed Susan, Todd, is there any particular horse in this field that you think is a standout, or do you feel like this race is kind of open?
I think the race is open. My general feeling about this is I've watched Adair Manor out in California. I'm not impressed with the 3-year-old fillies were out there. I followed a lot of the 3-year-old fillies outside of the California division because I went on the road for 45 days straight, going from the Louisiana Derby to the Florida Derby, and then into Kentucky for another 4 weeks. So along the way, I got to see the 3-year-old fillies in their respective races. The return of Distinctly Possible really impressed me at Keeneland. She was a horse that last year just wasn't ready to take on Juju's Map when she did in the Darley Alcibiades. As a daughter of Curlin, I think she was always going to get better as she got older, always get better with added distance. I would definitely prefer her over Adair Manor. Interstate Daydream, I thought she struggled with the track in the Ashland at Keeneland, while Nest was a dominating winner, and I think a nice winner, and still ran a pretty good race in the Kentucky Oaks. I think she was also a horse that really took to the track, and Interstate Daydream did not. I look for a return to her. The horse I cannot figure out is Radio Days, because going into the season, I thought this was going to be Shook McGahee's best 3-year-old filly. What she has not had an opportunity to do is go around 2 turns, and I think she might be best at that. So I look for her return to form. So my whole angle to this race is I'm definitely playing against Adair Manor, the morning line favorite. with the 3 horses that I was just mentioning, the 7 Distinctly Possible, the 8 Interstate Daydream, and Radio Days.
All right. And then how about you, Chris? You've been sitting over there watching your basketball game, smiling from ear to ear.
So take the theme. I've got my gun runner hat on tonight. So this is my theme for the night. You guys are going to see. So I agree with Todd. I mean, first off, the value here, there's no way I'm taking a horse like Adore Manor at 5-2. I think this field is completely wide open. I look for a price, and my price is 11 Radio Days with Rosario. I think this pace is going to get suicidal hot. I think there's a potential here to collapse the front end. That's probably why I'm going to leave Adore Manor. I hate to say I'm going to toss that horse, but I really like the closers here. Radio Days, I really like she can run closer to the pace, the gun runner pedigree. I just don't see an issue. And, when I see a horse can come 4 lengths off in a sprint and win the race, I don't think she's going to have a problem with the extra distance. And I'm looking at value too. And I got a sneaky stalker that I'm going to throw in there, and it's Morning Matcha, the 13. I just think this one is like, it reminds me a lot of Rich Strike. I think the race could set up that way. And I think, you look at Radio Days, Luna Bell. I think you could probably put those 2 on top, but then I'd look at some bombs to play underneath and maybe drive some of the value up. But I'm agreeing with Todd there. Adore Manor, I actually have down on the bottom that I'm going to toss that one.
Going to toss Adore Manor. Tom, are you going to do the same thing?
Well, I put her for 3rd. I went with number 4, Midnight Stroll, as my top choice. Won last 2 out, leading all the way. Last was against State Breds. Set a nice pace, and really they call it a comfortable finish. And I think I looked at the race, and I would agree. She's handled 2 turns already. She's won an open company in her maiden race. What's really interesting for me is her speed numbers, and she's gone from 67 in her first start to 91 in her last start. So she's really been improving and very quickly. I don't think the layoff hurts her, and she's won before off the layoff. So I took number 12, Favor, as my next choice. 2 wins at Mile. And the last race at the Fairgrounds in the Oaks was interesting, to say the least. She lugged out. I think she's a little green in that race, but you don't know with these 3-year-olds sometimes. And it's not as bad as 2-year-olds. They took a layoff. They decided not to put her into in anything and let her get ready for this kind of a race. They put 2 of the works at Belmont, which I like to see. She's got the 12 posts, and I'm not thrilled with that, especially at Pimlico. But she can get position. I think she'll have a chance to hit the board someplace. As I said, the aforementioned Adore Manor is my 3rd. I don't know. I'm not, it won by city blocks in 2 races and battled hard, but against what? And is it going to like Pimlico, which is even a bigger question. So we'll see. Finishing the money, I could see. Took 5, Begotten as my final choice. Missed in the fantasy by a neck. Only a maiden winner. They passed on the Oaks, Kentucky Oaks, to go top for this race. Interesting move with a change of rider to Jose Ortiz. And this is a horse I think wants 2 turns, and they're going to get it here, and let's see what he can do it coming out of that 5 post.
And what do you say, Sean?
So I'm kind of agreeing here. I'm going against Adore Manor. There's too much speed in here, and this horse has not proved that it can win off the pace. So it's going to be Preston. When it's Preston, doesn't get that clear lead, it falls apart. So Adore Manor is my 3rd pick, just respect out of what she has done. My top pick is Distinctly Possible. The 3 races never finished outside the exact, and 2 horses she lost to were Gerrymander and Juju's Map, which are both really good. Second start after a 6-month layoff. Her first start back was a maiden win, so this horse matured and is that much better. Will be ready to fire and should like the extra distance as well, as she's bred for that. Second, I went Luna Bell. Won 5 straight races, and none of those races have been close. They also were with the same jockey she'll have tomorrow, Dennis Arroyo, and all in the state of Maryland. Has won 6 of 8 races on a fast dirt track. And then, like I said, Adore Manor for 3rd. She's the deserving morning line favorite. I just can't play her at that price with the fact that she's going to definitely need the lead, and I don't know if she's going to get it or she's really going to be pressed for it.
Well, I must be in a place by myself because I'm going to go ahead and take a Dari Manor, because when there are these races where there's the potential for a real fast pace, like Chris mentioned, a lot of times the speed of the speed ends up winning. And that may not necessarily mean Sean, the horse that gets the lead. But when you look at a Dari Manor's early pace numbers, they're right up there with the fastest horses. What I find interesting, though, is when you look at the late pace numbers, they're right up there with the closers. So if Dari Manor doesn't burn herself out, I think she's going to have enough late kick to hold off the late ones and enough early kick to be close enough to the front to get it done. I also like Luna Bella. The horse is definitely on a strong win streak. The only concern I have about that horse, though, is it's been running at Laurel and Colonial Downs. Sometimes those horses at Laurel and Colonial Downs, you've seen them go on big winning streaks. I think there was one called Always Winning or Always Smiling or something. I won like 14 in a row, traveled away from Laurel and had really struggled to go from there. I like the Midnight Stroll. And then as far as if it goes really hot, I agree with you, Chris, on Chris disappeared. He's a ghost. The Morning Matcha is one that I feel like might have the best late legs at the end, clean up the trifecta maybe, or the superfecta. So we're going to swerve on over to Saturday now, and that is the Jim McKay Stakes. You alluded to that a little bit earlier, Todd, about a horse in there that you feel like might be the speed of the speed and can slingshot out of the turn. Which horse did you have in mind there?
Well, look, Caratori is a deserved morning line favorite. Looking back at the Janus Stakes, him and Smokin' Jay are both deserved horses. Hollis, to me, though, is the most interesting horse in this race if he can take his game as good to the turf. His race off a similar freshening off from September until December this year at Oaklawn Park, he dominated Nashville. And to be able to do that, and Nashville recently retired, if he runs anywhere near that, if he can bring it to the turf, I think he can track Caratori down and beat him. To me, Hollis is the price horse in here, the 9 at 6-1. I'm impressed with what I saw from John Ortiz over the course of this year and watching his campaign with his horses down at Oaklawn Park. This is a very, very good trainer, and I think he set up Hollis perfectly for this. It's interesting to me that he comes back on the turf with a horse like this, who I think is a top quality sprinter on the dirt. Mark me down for Hollis, and Caratori, a very solid favorite in the Jim McKay.
Is that an ice cold?
I don't know if I'm willing to go that far. And Dave's ice cold today wasn't very good in the last race, finishing second and third. But yeah, I have some pretty good confidence in those two. That's for sure. They're going to be anchoring anything I'm doing late. Where
does your confidence lie, Thomas?
I took number 3, 7 Cent is my top choice. I won at Keeneland last out against Top Company and raced for more money than this race is, which is interesting. Won by a neck. Previous to that race, it was claimed by Brian Cox, but from Carl Bovert for $80K. I don't know what race he had in mind. Was it the last race, or does he have this race in mind? Because they're always looking ahead when they make these claims. Of course, in January, you could have had this horse for 25, which was claimed at that point. It's had a great year. 6 starts, 3 wins, and 1 second. It likes the distance. It's run 40 times at all kinds of different tracks. So it can handle the turf at Pimlico, I think, very comfortably. And I'm looking for those odds. I took 5. Mr. Hustle was my next choice. He was in that same race at Keeneland with my top choice. I ran 5th and lost by about a length and a half. And, it was moving at the end. He just had some issues going on. But he was also claimed out of a race by Mike Baker for 40, a little better deal. Hasn't won on the turf ever. Has tried 4 times, has a placing. Hasn't won in a little while, but I looked at the claim, the good effort with issues last time, and Irod Ortiz Jr. is up. Caratora, the 2, the favorite, is my next choice. Great stakes placed, everything positive. Just going to need the trip out of that 2-hole. That's really it. And I don't know. It's run $500,000, and certainly on the turf, so it's definitely where it belongs. I took a local horse, number 7, as my final choice. Grateful Breed. Minor stakes races, some allowance wins, but overall it's done very well. Second off the layoff, ran second last out as the favorite, lost by a half a length. He's 2 for 2 at Pimlico. He'll be on or near the lead, and he may just surprise people. And a little note on Hollis, Dave, the dam threw 3 turf winners. So you're on the right track.
And what say you, Mr. Chris?
Mr. Chris doesn't handicap too many 5 furlong turf sprints. First off, so that's kind of a unusual distance at the end of the day. But I got 3 contenders here, and this is how I'm going. Grateful Bread, I'm actually taking on top. It's 5 for 10 for the distance. I know that Jockey Toledo has actually ridden this horse 6 times in a row. He's got 3 wins, 2 place, and I think the other one he's lost by 1 length. So really, he's a sliver away from going 6-6 on this horse. It's a Laurel shipper, hopefully some of that good Maryland air, and maybe they had some crab cakes on the way in. But I'm going to go with Grateful Bread as my top pick, and Karatari I like too. But the only thing I get concerned about with Karatari is I don't like so much early speed horses that are coming off a layoff, and that horse is coming off a 5-month layoff. So I like that one. I would have to include it. I get concerned about that. And then my third one is Hollis. I think, that one's just sneaky. I think I'd have to get some odds, though, on that one because I think it's a little unpredictable at the end of the day.
How do you predict it, Sean?
So I see.
Are you with us, by the way? Are you having internet problems too, my man? I see you keep going dark.
No internet problems, just a 4-year-old problem. That's all. So I saw a bunch of speed like you normally would in a 5 furlong turf race, but I see too much speed. I'm looking for a horse from mid-pack to close, and I'm going with number 6, Smokin' Jay. Has done well at this distance with a win in a third and 2 starts. Has off a 5-month layoff. Should help him due to all the traveling he was doing, and he should be fresh. And I like Jose Ortiz on this 5 furlong turf. Number 2, Katari, could be the speed of the speed. Has finished in the exact in 9 of 12 races at the distance. Has done well running after a break before as he's coming in off a 5-month break. And then I agree with Chris off number 7, Grateful Bread. This horse has speed, but can also sit off. So this might be one that will just sit off him. The only horse in the field, too, that's won on this turf course, and he's 2 for 2. Overall on turf has been in the exact in 7 of 10 career races.
I'm going to start with the home turf advantage with Grateful Bread. Sometimes you get horses for courses. The horses won 2 out of 2 at Pimlico, making it second start off the layoff. And if you look back at the track record, the horse generally improves the second time off the bench and then has a nice bullet workout in between races. So sharp at the track, sharp last time out. And like you said, Sean, I think this one can sit right behind the pace, or if the pace is too slow, can jump up on the front and the lead and take command too. And then just looking at a couple of different charts that I create on my own, it looks to me like Hollis and Katori really are the 2 class horses of the field. They look a cut above the rest of the field. Just giving Grateful Bread the slight advantage because of the success at Pimlico. And then closing it out with number 3, 7 cents to make the superfecta.
Hey, Rich, what's the morning line on Grateful Bread? I don't have that.
I think it's 6-1.
Okay.
That's correct.
Mm-hmm. All right. So the big race of the day is the Preakness without the Kentucky Derby winner, but we do have the Kentucky Derby second place horse. Todd, do you feel like Epicenter worked way too hard in the Kentucky Derby? Do you feel like he's got something left?
I feel like he's got a lot left. And here's the thing. The longest trip I've made for TVG was this year, and I mentioned it. It was 45 straight days following these horses all around the country. And I thought I was as prepared for the Kentucky Derby as I've ever been, because I think handicapping the Kentucky Derby is more of a visual process than trying to put it into numbers. And I spent most of the spring trying to beat Epicenter. And then I just realized how good he was. I ultimately made Zandon my selection in the Kentucky Derby. And I think there was a tactical decision that a lot of people have not talked about. Zandon was brilliant in the Toyota Bluegrass Stakes, but there was concern from Chad Brown, and he said it publicly. He wanted Zandon to be closer in the early stages of the Kentucky Derby. Considering how that race played out with the early pace, I think that cost Zandon. I think if Zandon had sat back Epicenter was further back than normal, and I think it was to his benefit. But I think Zandon probably wins that race if they just let him run his race like he did in the Toda Bluegrass Stakes. Having said that, as soon as they crossed the finish line and we saw the 80-1 upset that we saw in there, it made me question my life's choices. Because I'm thinking, I've followed these horses for 45 days straight. I put my heart and soul into making this trip. I've done everything possible. And then here comes the horse and off the also eligible list. Very happy for the connections. I know Eric Reed quite well. Could not be any happier for him. But it's just amazing to me how well you can prepare as a handicapper and then have something pretty much inexplicable happen in the Kentucky Derby. I felt the same way the previous year. Now, obviously, the previous year shrouded in obviously controversy. But I just looked back and I was like, a son of Protonico. Who's Protonico? So anyway, the Derby just tends to be its own race. But those horses who emerge out of it are obviously better in the Preakness when they come back in a couple of weeks. For some, it's too much. For others, they just get stronger and stronger. Epicenter, to me, is a horse that, in watching him school here today in the paddock, he's absolutely ready to run the Kentucky Derby, if not better. And let's remember, obviously they're shortening up out of the Kentucky Derby, but his biggest win to date was at 1 mile and 3/16 in the Louisiana Derby. I wish I could find a weakness in Epicenter. I just can't. And I can't get away from him. I really don't have a reason to.
Mm-hmm. And who are you going to go behind him with? Do you think that I know Sean's going to be all over Secret Oath. Do you feel like she can hang?
See, I don't. And here's my whole thing. Everyone wants to talk about how well she ran against the boys in the Arkansas Derby with the tough trip. Okay, if she wins the Arkansas Derby, what does exactly that mean? Because the Arkansas Derby was terrible and the Kentucky Derby. Yes, we all got on Cyber Secret. We got on a few horses, but we were wrong. So I don't know how you could look at the Arkansas Derby and say that's a testament to say she can hang with the top males at this end of the division. I just think Secret Oath is going to be overplayed in here. I do think that the second spot is up for debate. I could see Simplification checking in there. Creative Minister seems to be on the right path, and this is a race that Ken McPeak has obviously conquered before with Swiss Skydiver. So I would get more creative in the second spot of this race than I would when it comes to the winner.
All right, Sean. Why is our guest wrong?
Well, I really do like Secret Oath. I mean, she got that bad trip in the Arkansas Derby. They solved that. They put Luis Saez on. He made a perfect ride on her, and he's going to do it again. I think there's enough speed in here, and she'll make that big sweeping move from about mid-pack. She doesn't get too far back that I don't think, she needs this tremendous pace. She just needs a little bit of pressure. I think she's your winner, and you'll get pretty good value for it. Epicenter, I'm going to use for second.
Somebody doesn't agree with you.
Yeah, I see that.
That was me.
He's saying, no, Daddy, no. You're on
wrong,
TV,
you're
Daddy.
wrong.
Don't do it.
You'll be sorry.
Epicenter, I'm going to use for second. He's the deserving morning line favorite and the one to beat. I just think she did work. He did work a little bit hard in that Kentucky Derby is my only question. He really did dug deep to hold off Zandon. And I also think he'll have some pace pressure, although he can win off the pace. Simplification for third will be closing strongly. And in my opinion, there's enough pace for him to come up and get in a trifecta. I just don't think he's going to beat the top two.
Now, you told me a little bit earlier today, Boston Chris, that you had a surprising pick for the Kentucky, for the Preakness. I have a feeling I know who it is. Your theme of gun runner. All right. So let us hear it. Let us have it.
So the first thing is, and listen, I like Secret Oath. I like the story. I probably did something that maybe nobody else did. And Todd, maybe this gets me on TVG, but I actually went back and I watched some Rachel Alexander replays today because I wanted to see just kind of the flow and what happened. Now, I didn't have the Rachel Alexander PPs in front of me, but understand with Rachel, she went fillies. She went to the Oaks, she won the Preakness, and we all know what happened after that. She's a fantastic filly, one of the best probably ever. And, when I look at Secret Oath, there's a few knocks I have on this horse. Now, first thing is there enough pace to run into? I'm always concerned that you get a filly who last time out runs their highest. My Brisnet figure was 103. That was the highest above and beyond. And I'm really concerned that what's the bounce factor going to be here? How is she going to come back now? 2 weeks later, and face this team. And even though, and people say like, well, she had a pretty easy trip in the Oaks. I don't know if it was really that easy. And again, this is my Rachel Alexander reference. When Rachel won the Preakness, when she won the Oaks, it was a cakewalk, and she won really, really easy going down the stretch. Secret Oath doesn't have that.
Yep.
And I'm really concerned that, you know, she could bounce, and I'm a fan first, so I'd love to see the story if she could win. But from a betting standpoint, I just can't put this one on top, and I know a lot of people are getting excited about it. So my top pick is early voting, and this is why. Pace makes the race every time. When I look at the figures and I look at the querying points, and this is so important to me, as everybody knows, this horse has a +2 advantage. Chad Brown held this horse out of the Derby. He's going to be fresh. I think Chad Brown knew the pace was going to be off the charts, and the Preakness was a better spot. The other thing too that's interesting is, and I do a lot of this when I look at the jockeys. Jose Ortiz chooses early voting over simplification. So I always like to tie that in the mix as well and see what's going on. But, you know, this horse has only had 3 lifetime starts. There's a lot of positives here going for it. I hope these morning lines are all wrong anyway when I look at it, because I want more than 7-2 on early voting if I'm going to try and beat Epicenter. If I can get, it feels like 5-1-ish is what I'm going to be looking for. I don't know if I can get that, but I'm hoping some extra money will maybe go in on, Secret Oath. Epicenter is listen, I got the word legit favorite here in front of me. If something else happens and, the horse wasn't 6 lengths back coming out of the starting gate, Epicenter wins the Derby. And with this field and this crop that we have, who knows? Could be the favorite for the win the Triple Crown. So 6-5, and it's probably 4-5 come post time. I'm going to try and beat that one with early voting, and then I'll just round things up with simplification on what already has been said now. But gun runners on the distance, early voting, I don't think it's going to be a problem. Wire to wire, and there's not a lot of pace in this race. I think this one can do it. So I'm excited about Saturday. And
Thomas,
I concur with the gun runner, and I took number 5 early voting. He's proven in the mud that he can do it. He's proven on fast surfaces he's good. He got caught at the end. He just ran out of gas, and I think they kept him out of the Kentucky Derby because maybe mile quarter is just not his game, and the little shorter distance may be where he needs to be, at least at this point in his development. I took number 6 Happy Jack as my next choice. Kentucky Derby was nothing, off slow, beat 6 horses. Well, okay, big deal. I'm not looking for this horse to win. I'm looking for it to get into the bunny and help prop up some of these exactas or trifectas, and that's one horse I think can do it. I think Doug O'Neill's got it in there here for a reason, because I think they got a chance. Epicenter, I'm going to put for 3rd. He's run 2 good races and won one and lost one. Coming out of that 8 hole, if he can't get position quickly, and I know he can, but you never know. It's horse racing. And there are a lot of other people going to be thinking what to do too, to make sure that he can't do that. So we'll see. I did take simplification as my final choice. He went from 15th to 4th in the Kentucky Derby, lost by 3.5 lengths. I think the rail at Pimlico is a good thing. 20% win record from there. He's been in every race. He shows up. Speed favoring.
Looks like Omaha's not working either. This Thomas is in Omaha. All right. So while Thomas goes, freezes up on us, I'll go ahead and I think it's going to be, I agree with you, Chris. I like early voting. I feel like he's going to be up on the lead. I watched a couple days of racing at Pimlico. I agree with your colleague, Todd, Matt, who, when he was with us, said on these big days, they like to soup up the tracks. So speed plays even more. I think early voting gets the lead. It goes wire to wire. Epicenter, I just feel like with those fractions and as fast as that race was and how hard he fought at the end, that he left a little bit in Louisville. So I think he's going to come in second. I like Skippy Longstocking. This horse has improved 4 consecutive races in a row. The only concern for me is that speed bump last time out was really big. So it kind of maybe a candidate for the bounce. But if that trend continues and that bullet workout getting ready says that it is possible, maybe Skippy Longstocking is that price horse that comes in, as you mentioned, Chris, looking for a price on the back end to fatten out these tickets. And then simplification. I don't think that Secret Oath is going to even finish in the money, Sean.
Oh, you're totally wrong on that. We're putting a side wager on that.
That's a hot dog wager there, yeah.
Absolutely a hot dog wager.
A hot dog ketchup with hot dog with ketchup wager.
Yeah, I'm sauerkraut for me.
You can't see. We went through this the other day, last night. You've been to Chicago, I'm sure, Todd.
Yes.
And you just can't order ketchup on a hot dog in Chicago if you want to go to that establishment again.
Yeah, Mike Joyce was pontificating about that at dinner tonight, talking about how you can't get an Italian beef, a proper Italian beef, unless you're in Chicago. And then he was talking about his favorite hot dog place. He goes, if you want ketchup, you have to walk across the street to McDonald's to get it. They don't have it on the premises.
It's absolutely 100% true. So what time tomorrow are you going to get started for all the folks that want to watch you on TVG, Todd?
So the first of 14 races is at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And so we're splitting up our shifts. So Dave's going to be on early starting at about 11 a.m. Eastern time. And then I'm going to pick it up around race number 4. And then I'll go 4 through 14. So I'm going to get tied on and really looking forward to it. And as I've told you guys before, I think you do a phenomenal job on this show. And to me, the greatest part of horse racing is this communal experience to sit around with other horse players, talk about the races, talk about other topics that you said that come up. And, aside from that shared experience, also maybe looking at the race a different way that you didn't see going into it. You guys have opened up my mind to a couple of things I hadn't thought of in the races we've covered. So thank you.
Oh, thank you for the compliment. I think he's just buttering us up a little bit, folks, for sure. All right, that wraps it up for tonight. Any final thoughts, Sean, before we get up and out of here?
Well, I was going to ask Todd. The question I get a lot on Facebook, too, is the coverage tomorrow. How many of those races will TVG actually have?
We should have all those races tomorrow. It'll be different when NBC has a big focus, obviously, on Preakness Day. I feel sorry for horse players trying to figure out where races are these days. They understand the Triple Crown, but I don't know how to explain to them, well, we show Aqueduct, but we don't show Belmont Spring online and then Saratoga and the rest of it. I will say there is going to be, just looking forward on the Triple Crown Trail, TVG will have a presence with some reporters at Belmont Park. We're still not going to be able to show the races, but at least we're going to be able to have reports from Belmont and talk about what's going on. Because to me, our greatest service is being there and being able to relay what's going on. It's one thing for all of us to sit there and watch a racetrack as it plays out. It's another to be there. I think our information is better, and we certainly get told a lot more by the connections, and we also can decipher for ourselves a lot more than watching on a TV screen. So, yeah, tomorrow we're going to be in full force, and then Saturday will be the whole thing where NBC takes over and we're off for about 3 hours.
Quick question for you. One more. Do you ever have side bets with the other analysts for money or hot dogs dinner?
So Dave and I have a lot of side bets that involve cash. But I do like this. I would rather have the hot dog side bets or the dinner side bets. I think that would be a lot better. I agree.
And I have one final question for you before we let you run. Looking through your Twitter feed, you see that you're sporting some color lately with the jackets. What color is it going to be tomorrow?
Oh, tomorrow. So our biggest problem is the heat. So I took the team captain role and said, we're not going to wear ties. It's just going to be a jacket and a shirt. So hopefully we'll be able to make that last through Saturday. On Saturday, I'm actually going to repeat a color that I had a while back. And I'm going to go with some aqua with a pink and white shirt underneath. Tomorrow's going to be very, very tame. I'm just going to go with a checked blue jacket. But Saturday will be my late Craig Sager homage will be on Saturday.
No, we're looking forward to that. All right. Well, we definitely look forward to the picks. We look forward to tomorrow, as I mentioned. Tom and I will be back at 1 o'clock Eastern to go over the Curragh, right, Tom? What are we covering there?
Yeah, we're going to look at the 2,000 guineas that's running on Saturday and the 1,000 guineas that's running on Sunday.
And then I will be taking off on Saturday. Need a little bit of a break. We'll be back on Monday with Jared one more time, provided that the head doesn't hurt. And then Terry will be back from vacation. Until then, folks, we hope you have a fantastic Friday. Whether you're making picks at the Preakness or the Belmont, no matter what it is that you're doing, we hope that your day and your picks end up in the
winner circle.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Thank you, Thank you, Todd. Our pleasure. Have a great evening. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you. You too.
Cause I'ma live life for the fight, yeah, I'm here to get it. I got drive, got